Can you give us an example of what that porous relationship looks like? What are some key examples of where you see this players across different companies accessing the same information?
Well, one example that is very appropriate because it both illustrates the original discovery and the whole nature of this relationship is an employee named Ali Yassin. I usually try not to name people, but I feel it's important for you to know this for any looking into it purposes. He was a full stack developer for SCL Group. On his public GitHub page, he had code that came out of Aggregate IQ. I know because I found it within Aggregate IQ's codebase, and it was marked as being authored by an Aggregate IQ employee named Koji. Then further on down in the codebase, so you've got SCL and Aggregate IQ that supposedly have no relationship, but working with the same codebase. Further on down, there is a field that says client, and written in there is Cambridge Analytica. Now, I can't see why SCL Group would be saying that Cambridge Analytica is a client of theirs. They basically own Cambridge Analytica. SCL Group is the mothership on top of that. So the only reasonable explanation to me is that Aggregate IQ would have been the one putting Cambridge Analytica as the client, and then the code being passed to SCL Group, and that just not being changed immediately. So there's a little triangle going on there. Also, I can tell you that the GitLab logs very clearly show that the beginning of the Ripon project that was primarily developed for Ted Cruz's 2016 campaign, the very initial seeds of it were downloaded from a domain scl.ripon.us and placed in the GitLab and developed and evolved from there. scl.ripon.us is a domain underneath Alexander Nix's name. He's the one that is registered under the Whois records. So that's another example of code flowing from one to the other. Also, the examples that Cambridge Analytica has put forward through their public statements of data that they used, more recently, I guess they felt pressure to kind of be transparent about where the data came from. They admitted that they got the RNC data trust data. The RNC IDs are all over the place in the fields and categories and targeting scripts and parsers that are present in Aggregate IQ's repository, as well as in their documentation. So if data is going directly from one to the other, they are certainly dealing with the same type of data.